Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing well today. Welcome to another live Meet the Expert session where experts give you their advice on how to succeed in the world of work. I'm your host, Kathleen. I'm an account manager at JobTeaser in the UK. And with us today, we have Brian Sinclair from DS Smith. He's the graduate recruitment manager. Brian, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. How's the adjustment to remote work been for you?
It's been good and bad. So good that I don't have to commute into work every day, work from home, which is great. But also means I'm a bit behind in my reading. I like to read a lot when I travel with work. But then also it's good that I'm at home with my kids and my family, which is really helpful and really nice. But they also just constantly sing songs from all the high school musical movies, which is slowly driving me insane. So apart from that, I'm fine.
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment. So today, Brian is going to run through with us how to identify which transferable skills can be useful at work, professional networking and its uses, and then how to create social value and its professional importance. Brian, before we start, can you tell us a little bit about your university and career background?
Sure. So I studied a business degree at Sussex University here in the UK. I landed a grad role in one of the big corporates here as a business improvement analyst. And one of my things was I was asked to help review the grad recruitment process as a project. I just enjoyed it so much. I actually transferred into the graduate recruitment team, and I've worked in recruitment ever since, basically. And yeah, now I'm currently a graduate recruitment manager at DS Smith, which is a global, innovative, sustainably run packaging company. The students have probably never heard of us before, and that's fine. But if you do want to know more about the company and the grad programs, just search DS Smith Early Careers and take a look. And in my role, I look after quite literally all aspects of the recruitment process, from dealing with the internal stakeholders to confirm what sort of grads they want and how many and where. And then I look at how we advertise externally, what universities do we target and how. I also design the selection process from initial application through to our virtual assessment centres, which will be held in June, and literally everything in between. So if you apply for a grad role at DS Smith in the UK anyways, you'll probably be in contact with me at some point.
Nice. I'm sure as a packaging company, you guys are really busy right now with everyone's online deliveries.
Yes, it has had an impact, yeah.
And is DS Smith recruiting right now?
Yes, we're coming into the last kind of 2 weeks of applications. We close on the 30th of May. We have 2 roles in the UK, a packaging role on the graduate packaging program and a finance program as well. So both rotational, just quite good programs for, someone joining the world of work for the first time.
Nice. It's nice to hear that some companies are still recruiting. So let's start off by looking at transferable skills. In what way is being in university like being at work?
Well, I think just reflecting back on my own time and talking to students, I think there's a lot of similarities. Basic stuff like you need to get up in the morning. You have various breaks during the day. You would have probably places you need to go to, so lectures, theatres, library, coffee shops. You'll probably be asked to do things by other people, lecturers, professors, supervisors, other team members. And you'll have work to do, work with others. You have your friendship group, your peer group, some senior advisors you're working with, and you'll probably have life outside uni, some sort of social life. So, on the base level, not that dissimilar.
And how do you make the most of your time while still at university to ensure success when you do start work?
Good question. During the session, I'm going to look at, how you can identify and build on some of those university to work transferable skills, and what are the things you can practice now so you can be more successful in a selection process at work. But some things, we're looking at some things you can mention in your CV during or during an interview to help you stand out against the competition and just get the job to be more successful.
And how can you identify the skills that you have that you can transfer to the workplace?
I suppose there's lots of new things that you probably do for the first time when you start a new role. So, buying new clothes, a new suit or whatever. You might buy a bike to cycle to work, a car, maybe a season ticket loan for your daily commute, obviously when the pandemic is over. You might be swapping your alcohol intake for a caffeine intake, maybe. However, overall for me, it's just simply looking around at the things you do every day and thinking if they would still be useful, after university when you start working. So, as you said, looking at these three things: professional networking, these kind of small differences in how they matter, and then creating social value.
Can you tell me a little bit more about professional networking, what it is and why it's important?
Sure, sure. So if I was to kind of ask you what is the greatest invention ever built, you'll probably suggest, I don't know, the car, bike, planes, printers, computers, X-ray machines, there's loads, MRI scanners. People have said rockets and satellites, etc. But if I was to kind of just say, what invention has helped humans be the most productive ever? And the invention has been most helpful in getting work done. You probably struggle a bit with that one, but the answer is quite simple. It's a team. The team is the most productive invention we've ever had. The most invention that's greatest, delivered the greatest productivity ever. I don't mean you need to be in a team with superpowers like the Avengers or the X-Men. What you just need is a good mix of different people with different ideas, different backgrounds, education, culture, gender, etc. In fact, the better the mix, I think the better the team. And even nature agrees, opposites attract. So to be successful in working in a team, you just need people skills. So no matter what the level of education, intelligence, or complexity of the issue you're dealing with, or people you're working with, being able to deal with people is always going to be a key skill. In fact, my old economics lecturer used to offer us cash if we could think of a job that didn't require you to interact with other people. We couldn't think of any, and I doubt anyone could. He's probably still asking that question, and I doubt anyone has ever won the cash prize. He's an economics lecturer. So the basic thing is you're always going to have to be able to work with people.
How can a student be proactive and successful when it comes to professional networking?
So to help you improve your your people skills, your networking skills, I was going to just talk about the 3 A's of popularity. This is attention, approval, and acceptance. And they're from a podcast called The Art of Charm. So if you want to look it up, go have a listen. I think it's a good podcast, and find the episode and tune in. But in the absence of that, let me give you just a brief summary. So attention is, as humans, we are hardwired to want attention. We want to be noticed, to be seen. Approval, we want people to thank us for what we do. We want people to congratulate and praise us. And acceptance, we want to be accepted into a group. Humans are social animals. We survive by being in groups, and these are the 3 A's. These are why we cry as babies. Why the bully in the class is a bully. It's often because he is just not getting these 3 A's, elsewhere in their life. It's why we show off and do stupid things in class. It's why having a burning desire to fit in somewhere, that's why we have it. It's just having that sense of belonging. We all want attention, approval, acceptance. It's not wrong. It's just human. So knowing this, how do you use it to be more popular, be better with people? Well, again, the answer is quite simple. You give them attention. You give them approval. You give them acceptance. You give people the attention they crave. You just simply give them the praise. You tell them you want to be part of their group or be more like them, or that they can be part of your group, obviously without being weird. So you just try it, compliment someone on their new haircut, their new shoes, their new outfit, perhaps out at trying really hard, thank them for their effort, say well done on their results, thanks for completing your part of this group assignment, on well and on time. Just try it. It doesn't cost anything. And then, if you want to think, how does this translate into the world of work? Well, for me, it's quite simply, it's the difference between being a good worker and being good to work with. You don't really want to work long hours and not get recognized for your effort. So get out there, talk to people, let them know what you're doing, ask for help, thank them for their ideas, their contribution, and be a good team player, because, good team players make the best leaders. So I say just practice that in professional networking now, so you get recognized for people skills when you're actually at work. Does that help?
Yeah, I really like that. So it's about raising your voice, interacting more, just being more present. I like that a lot. Do students have to make big changes in order to gain skills necessary for the workplace?
So this is when I goes into the small differences. So no, I would say small changes can make a big difference. So when we look at a recent example, it's slightly negative, but I think it illustrates the point well. So back in April last year, Rolls-Royce cut its global workforce by 10%. And it's only 10%. But in Derby, which is a town in the UK, that meant the loss of 4,600 jobs in one medium-sized town. So think about it. How important was that global 10% cut to the people in Derby? So these small differences do matter. And then look at your own grades. There's only a small gap between, what the most employers want, these kind of top grades. We all want students with these top grades. There's only small differences between them. So to achieve those small differences, maybe spend 5-10% more on an assignment, 5 to 10% more time revising, or just 5 to 10% more time just getting to know your team. Remembering those people skills, and then thinking forward at work. How much would a difference of maybe 5 to 10% make on a budget of like 10 million on a project you're working on? How that impact your company's profit margins, so your own company's margins. And a small difference on an annual performance rating can mean the difference between a 10 or a 20% annual bonus or a 5 to 10% difference in pay rise. Maybe even get a promotion, maybe not. But mapped over your career, these marginal differences, these small differences, they do add up.
A lot of people refer to soft skills and hard skills. Which do you think is more important, emotional intelligence or technical skills?
So there's an old saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I would say emotional intelligence is more important because it's easier to teach. So because it's easier to teach technical skills. So emotional intelligence, that's harder to kind of train and develop. Technical skills, whatever the role, you can probably teach them a lot easier. But I would kind of add this, it isn't about achieving perfection. There is an incessant drive for perfection that people have, and that only really leads to increased stress and in many cases, mental health issues. So don't strive for perfection, strive for improvement. It's just about these slight improvements, often based on kind of some feedback that we all should be looking for. And if you want, I can illustrate kind of, that perfection won't always let you win. This was that this story I know about this. Let me get it right. There was this girl at an assessment center in a previous company. So she attended it and she was not successful. So obviously, not happy. So we offered feedback. So I called her up and I was going through the feedback with her. And I asked her, she asked me, I said to her one question she got, she was asked in the assessment center, she didn't do particularly well in. And she thought she gave a really good example. So I asked her, what was the example you gave? And she told me, and she said that she'd come over to the UK to study university. She'd just come from South America, I think it was. She wanted to join the kind of the dressage, the horse riding, the horse jumping, show jumping team. And she was unsuccessful because apparently, I don't know, they ride horses differently in South America than they do in the UK. So she didn't get on the team, but she stayed involved. She went along and supported the team and attended the socials. And she also trained on how to ride horses properly in the UK. So in her second year university, she tried out for the team and she got on the team and loved being actually part of the team that year and loved being kind of part of all the competitions and not just on the sidelines. And then in the final year, she then went for the team captain role and she got it. So she then became team captain and apparently led the team to its greatest year ever, but most of them wins and trophy successes. So I was thinking, that's a pretty good example of showing some sort of resilient skills. I think it's quite impressive. But when I look down at the interviewer notes, he'd literally just written something about horses. So the point is, the interviewer didn't do his job properly. That's a given. We did have a conversation about that. But the point, or maybe I just told the story better. I don't know. But the point is, the candidate, was really, really good, and she wasn't hard. But that wasn't her fault. She did a really good example. She was kind of, an excellent candidate. But maybe she just got a lucky break. So I think candidates should often think sometimes they didn't get the job because it just wasn't meant to be. And really, would you really want to work in an organization where your manager is just not going to listen and see the brilliance in you? So if unsuccessful, don't beat yourself up over it. Don't think you're bad, you're not perfect, you need to try harder. You probably did just fine, it's just not right for that particular role. Take the lesson and move on to something where you probably will be more successful. Does that help?
Yeah, that's a really good story. You spoke about teamwork. How can students improve themselves?
So again, just one of the best examples I can think of how many small differences really add up to big improvements is the question which one man asked of his team. So, and it was, will it make the boat go faster? So this is the mantra used by a guy called Ben Hunt Davies, who's a member of the British Empire, MBE. And he came up with it when he was training to compete in the rowing at the 2000 Olympics in Australia. So it's a heavily regulated sport. You can't just stick a motor on the back of the boat. It's not allowed. So you need to work within the rules to gain that edge over your competition. Speed and rhythm of the rowing strokes, the amount of paint or wax on the hull they were using or lacquer, how long are the oars in the water, how fast can you move them through the air before you strike the water again. So many things, the angle of the oars, the angle of the paddle in the water. But he looked at all these things and asked the team to suggest all these small things. And all these differences, they added up to them actually winning gold. So massive achievement. And it just shows that even if you can't make big wholesale changes, many smaller changes to you and your team will add up to big differences overall performance. And all it takes is to be 10% better than your peers. And I mean, I know you're talking about teams, but it always reminds me of that old joke about two men in the jungle. They spot a big cat running towards them, and one starts running, and the other says, "You're not going to outrun him." The first man says, "I know, I just need to outrun you." So again, just be that 10% better than your competition.
If we take a step back and look at society as a whole, how can a student create social value?
So this is it's a lovely. I really like this story particularly, and I've told a few already. But the best example I can think of is the story of Rosa Parks. So for those who aren't familiar with who she is and what she did, let me just going to give you a quick version of the story. So I think it was the Thursday, it was the 1st of December 1955 in a town called Montgomery, Alabama. And this 42-year-old petite black woman boarded the bus after work. She paid her 10-cent fare and then sat down in the middle of the bus. So Rosa wasn't so she sat in the middle of the bus. And at that time in Montgomery, Alabama, there was segregation in place. So and the front of the bus, only white people allowed to sit. The back of it was where the black people sit. And in the middle, people could sit, but where there was seats, with all the white seats taken up, then the black people had to get up and give their seats up. But Rosa Parks didn't give her seat up. She was actually at the time when he asked her to get off the bus, she wouldn't get out of the seat, and she was arrested. But she wasn't the first person to be arrested. So if you look at at the time, you have to ask, why was Rosa Parks arrested? What did this lead to the civil rights movement, which we're all very familiar with? So you think, look again, not long before her arrest, another black woman was arrested for talking back to the bus driver over seating. 3 other black women were taken to jail for refusing to give their seats up to white passengers, and that didn't lead to a civil rights movement. There was 2 black women and their children were arrested for sitting in the white seats. Two black teenagers who were visiting from out of town, from New Jersey, I think it was. Where the buses aren't segregated, well, they weren't at the time, obviously still aren't. And they sat beside 2 white people and they were arrested, and that didn't lead to a civil rights movement. A man was actually shot for not giving up his seat, and yet there was still no civil rights movement. So you have to ask, why is it when Rosa Parks didn't give up her seat, why did this lead to a civil rights movement? And for me, you kind of have to look at her a bit closer. She was particularly well known across all walks of life in Montgomery. Her friendship and her kind of affiliations cut across, at the time, the city's racial and economical divide. She was the secretary of the NAACP chapter. She attended a local, I think it was a Methodist church. She helped with the youth club at a Lutheran church nearby. She spent her weekends volunteering at a local shelter, others at a botanical club. I think it was on Wednesday, she helped with the women knit blankets for a local hospital. She volunteered dressmaking services to poor families and provided last-minute, gown alterations for wealthy kind of white debutantes. So she was very active in the community. Her husband joked that she used to eat more kind of charities more than she did at home. So when she was arrested and removed off this bus, what did she do? So she called her parents, wouldn't we all? Her mother then called the head of the NAACP, who called her husband to get her bailed out, a sensible thing to do. The husband, he called a lawyer who had good people skills, who knew Parks as she'd fixed his daughter's dresses for the graduation balls over the years. Both of these men went down to the jailhouse and asked if they could just basically take her case to challenge these segregation laws. And as you know, she said yes. But the thing is, while this was happening across town, people were finding out that she had been arrested. Rosa Parks had been arrested. And they were like, no, not Rosa Parks. And because of that, they rose up to help her. Because of all the things she did in the community, knew who she was a good person. And they rallied to her cause. They called an impromptu meeting and suggested a boycott. They printed flyers, which is a lot harder back then. No one had printers in their houses. And they basically went out and distributed them across the city. And the boycott was to last until her appearance in court, which was the following Monday. And obviously this led to further protests and demonstration, and what we all now know as the civil rights movement. So eventually, the segregation laws were changed, and Rosa quite rightly got the Presidential Medal of Honor. And we all know her small act of defiance it changed history forever, which I think is just amazing. So, why am I telling this story of Rosa Parks? Well, it's about as someone who regularly gave so much to society and had been known for it in so many circles. She stood up such a response to the people who knew her and were willing to respond to her needs. The disbelief that someone like Rosa Parks could be arrested for such a small thing just motivated people to rise up and change things. So my advice is to be the sort of person whose actions or deeds inspires others to action. Does that help?
Yeah, so it's about giving back to the community and really kind of getting involved in things that set you apart from other people. Yeah. What do you think is most important to be successful at work?
So obviously, it's not that employers want candidates who cause civil rights movements, etc. Employers just want candidates who do more than simply work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, just in to do their work and then go home. Employers want people who have the potential to lead and inspire others. We want leaders of the future, effectively, most grad programs. And I suppose if you're sitting there thinking, this doesn't apply to me, I'm going to set up my own business and work for myself, despite what my old economics lecturer said, ask yourself, what is the most successful business out there? Is it the one, especially the ones who are addressing a social need? So you're not out there experiencing a society and trying to help your local community. How are you going to see the problems that need to be solved before you turn them into successful business ideas? So again, I'd encourage you all just to, look around where you can help people around you, volunteer, but not just because you have to, but because you want to. I would say you find a cause, help someone, help something, give something back, and the universe will pay dividends.
Yeah, I think it's especially at work, it's not just about doing your own role. You can help in other roles as well if needed to.
Yeah.
Before we jump into a few student questions, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Wow, anything else? So I suppose hopefully you can see that uni and work are similar, as the things that make you successful in your studies are probably the same things that make you successful in life. Employers also know that whatever it is that motivates you to be successful in studies will help you be successful in work. So find out what motivates you and actually apply. And take it from me, you won't just get the grades and you'll get the job, and then you won't just get the job, you'll get the pay rises and the bonuses and the promotions. And you won't just have application success, you'll have career success. And I think now is the best time to start. And what I'd say is start by asking yourself this question, which is, in life, do you want to look back and regret, or do you want to look forward and succeed? So that's all I want to add. So over to you for questions.
Okay, great. One of our students from Oxford Brookes University asks, how do you know if you're qualified enough for the workplace?
Okay, so I often get asked this question, and I use a dishwasher analogy. So bear with me. So my son is almost 15. And if I was to ask him, can you go in and empty the dishwasher, please, son? And if he empties the dishwasher and it comes back out to me with a big smile, haven't I done good, Dad? I'm thinking, you're not ready for the world of work. If I said to him, empty the dishwasher, and he emptied the dishwasher, and then looked around the sink and put in the next batch of cutlery and paint, glasses and plates to be washed, and then kind of maybe wiped around the sink a little bit, then I'm thinking, you're ready for work. The difference is, the first example, he literally just followed my instruction, no more, no less, and expected praise for it. In the second example, I gave him a simple instruction, he followed it, used his common sense and looked around and thought, there's other related work that I can also do that would be helpful. In the world of work, your manager's not going to be able to give you every single thing you need to do. They're going to give you a broad instruction, and the more you can take the initiative and do what else is possible and would be helpful to do, the more you are ready for the world of work. So next time someone asks you to do a simple task, that's all you can complete, you're not ready. If you can do the simple task and then look around and see what else I could do that would be helpful, then I think you're ready.
We have one more question from an Oxford Brookes student, and it's a post-corona question, really. It's, how do you start networking in person?
So when talking about networking, I always use the phrase, you work the room, not the conversation. So, you have a little chat, you make some initial kind of introductions. If you find the conversation is useful, continue it. If you feel like the conversation is forced, find a way to get out. Just, I've got to go to the toilet, let me go get a drink, or those snacks that are really good, and just move away from the event. But when you are, talking to people, the key thing as well is to remember, find out how you could help before you ask them for help. People will always return a favor a lot quicker than doing one initially. So try to find out what is their pain points, what are they struggling with, what are they having difficulty with. Try offer some help, and then when you've done that, then you're quid in for asking them for some help.
From the University of Hull, a student asks, what key skills are most important to employers in your opinion?
It's kind of what I mentioned earlier on. It's the things that we can't teach are the things that make you stand out. So yes, you're all going to have your university grades, you're going to have your subjects you studied. We're going to have probably loads of students from your university in your degree course, applying for the same roles. So think about, how can you stand out? What is that adds up to you? And where do you make the difference? And that's only, something only you can tell. So have a think about what motivates you, what are things you really enjoy, what are your values, what are things that are important to you. And if you can articulate those, then that will differentiate you, hopefully in a positive way, above someone who's got the raw academic ability or some kind of basic technical skills.
From EM Lyon Business School, in your opinion, what are the biggest struggles that students face when starting a new job? And how can they get over any anxiety?
So I think, it's going to be the sheer overload of information, not just your job and how to do it, but, simple things like, where's my desk, what are everyone's names, just remembering where the toilets are. So just remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. You'll need at least 6 months to feel like you know what you're doing. So take your time to settle in, and don't say yes to everything is another tip I'd say. Offer to take a look or consider and get back to them. It can be a bit of information overload. So tell them you need just time to digest and decide. And I think the thing is have a different mindset. People have this phrase about the steep learning curve. And the idea is that you're learning, over a short period of time, you're learning quite a lot. And you think that's quite hard. But what's the opposite? Is learning very little over a long period of time. You really don't want that in life. So if you are faced with a steep learning curve, you are faced with a lot to learn in a short amount of time, you're probably going to have the support to do it. So take that as a positive, that you're learning lots and very quickly, as opposed to not learning much over a really long period of time and just being very bored. So I think it can be a very positive thing.
Mm-hmm. I'll just read a couple more. What can international students do to bring skills they've learned from overseas to their current country of residence? That's from Essex University.
Okay, so for me, first thing I say is don't hide your cultural background. I'd also advise you to choose your employer wisely. I know from working in different places, some companies hire for diversity, but then they fire for non-conformity. They hire because you look different and it ticks a box, but then you have to become like us to continue to be successful, which is, I don't think that's right. So check what they have in place to support and celebrate diversity, cultural diversity in the workplace. Do they have a women's network, an LGBT network, any faith-based network, a language school, stuff like that? And if they're just hiring because it looks good on Recruitment Report, then you join the wrong company. In my opinion, every offer should be earned, not awarded. So if you've earned your offer, just only by being you would you be successful in it. So don't hide your cultural background.
And one final question from a student from the Université de Luxembourg. How can I approach a company employee to get specific details about a company or role?
So from doing this, I strongly advise do your homework first. So don't ask a recruiter to spend time telling you what is already on the website or on the job description. Then try to do the homework first, look up the company, do your research, then ask specific, tailored questions. Recruiters love inquisitive candidates, but we don't want to just haven't bothered to look up the answers for themselves first. So be inquisitive, engage, but don't be lazy and ask for questions that are clearly on the website already. So that'd be my advice.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's all for today. Brian, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom with us all. Students will find it very helpful. Until the next Meet the Expert, I will see you guys next time.